Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Mandalorian episode review. This week, we're going to be reviewing Chapter 11, The Heiress. Um, I guess I better introduce myself. I always mess up on that part. I'm Dom, one of your co-hosts, and I'm here with RB. He's the other co-host. Um, we do the show here, top of the list. The reason I kind of feel like introducing this for the first time, because I feel like a lot of people are going to be researching this chapter 11, and not only because there's a big cameo in it and a lot of implications that have to do with previous Star Wars television shows. I know even me myself, a huge Star Wars fan, I did have to go online and look up a little bit of the backstory, even though I did kind of remember most of it within the episode. And that kind of leads me into a few questions I have for yourself, RB. But first off, I think we should just give our scores, general opinions before the spoiler alert. So I'm going to hand it over to you, RB. Just vaguely, what's your score? What do you think of the story? Acting, all the stuff we usually talk about. What's your overall score?
Yeah, I'm going to give this one, I'll probably go with an 8 out of 10. So a little bit below our first chapter, chapter 9 of the season. A little bit, or quite a bit above chapter 2 this season. Definitely like this episode. Had no problems with the pacing, which is sometimes where I think this show struggles. But thought there was a lot of great action in this, a lot of great dialogue. And, of course, a lot of awesome, I don't know if Easter egg's the right word. They kind of hit you in the face with a lot of these names that we remember that
References.
even myself, references. There we go. Even myself, who's not a huge Star Wars fan, of course, I've seen all the movies, but haven't seen all the Clone Wars or Rebels like you have. Even someone like myself understood some of those references. So, I really enjoyed this. 8 out of 10. Definitely a must-see episode. So 8 for us. That's a great episode. Definitely would fall in that range for me.
Awesome. And excuse me, rare burp on cam for me.
Love that. It's always candid here on top of the list.
It's easier that way, less editing. So I guess then I should just say my score, because I feel like it's so hard to talk about this episode without going into spoilers. Because I am gonna admit, guys, I opened my phone this morning, looked at my Twitter, looked at my Insta, and I saw some images from this episode, and I was spoiled just by the images, because I could tell who those people were that made big cameos in this one, just by looking at them and the actors that play certain characters. So I did get spoiled, but still, I really enjoyed this episode. And on first watch, I thought, wow, that was really exciting. I had to think about it for a second, and then because I watched it earlier today, we're recording this on Friday, watched it earlier in the day, waited a while, then watched it again, which I rarely do, watch the same episode on one day. Usually I watch it one and then I'm done with it. But wanted to watch this one again because this is a shorter one, 34 minutes, really good.
Shortest
as far
one this season, right?
Shortest one this season, absolutely. And I think that was really advantageous for this episode. Usually I am one of those guys that is pro longer episodes, but this episode's pacing was lightning speed. Maximum tension, maximum suspense, maximum, something's always happening to our heroes, and something is always going on screen, whether it's character development, plot development, just pure action, which this episode really delivered on. So I'm delaying my score far too long. After watching it a second time, I thought about it a lot, and this, for me, was the best episode of The Mandalorian overall out of every episode that's been released.
Really?
That's the level I'm on for this one. I was kind of wary to do that for this one, but that's the level I'm on, honestly. If I were to give this a number score, I'm hesitant to do this so early on in the season because I have a feeling there's a lot of great things going on in the future, but I got to give this one a perfect score, 10 out of 10, I think.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, this was definitely a great episode. I think thinking back to all the episodes, I can't say, first of all, I think the chapter 1, the child, the first episode, big fan of that one. Chapter 1 of season 2, which was chapter 9, I liked a little bit better than this one. And then, of course, chapter 8, I thought was a masterpiece as well. But besides those 3, which I think are obviously, season finale, season premieres, flagship episodes, definitely, if you're looking at middle of the season episodes, this was definitely the best.
And the biggest surprise for me on this one was I hate to say it, but Bryce Dallas Howard directed this one, and
Right.
the
Yep.
previous episode in season 1 she directed, I thought was an okay episode. Certainly didn't stand out to me. I think the one, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you know this or not, Ryan, but the one she directed was the one where the Mandalorian and the child go to the village, and then they have to save the village from the Empire. I'm pretty sure
I
that's Bryce Dallas
believe, I
Howard.
believe, I agree with you. I believe so. But that being said, I do think that's one of the better episodes. I
That's a
really
good one.
enjoyed that episode. Yeah.
It was a really good one, but it wasn't, that fantastic episode like the premiere was this season, or even the premiere before that, um, or even the finale, like you said. For me, it was hard to choose whether or not this episode was actually going to be a higher score for me than the finale, because if I would have given last season's finale a score, I probably would have given it a 9.5, and I'm giving
Yeah.
this one a 10. So I gotta say, this one to me was better because um, I'm just going to say this in vague terms. This one opens up the Star Wars universe to go in a direction that we're going to be melding a lot of things that fans like me can appreciate, and fans that maybe aren't really interested in the larger Star Wars universe can also hop on and get involved in this. And that's what was so exciting for me about this episode.
Yeah. That said, though, I think my score should be taken with an asterisk.
Mhm.
Asterisk. Sorry.
Okay.
Like I said, I think there were characters in this episode that, yes, there were references that I could understand, but there were also probably some that you caught right away that, I had to look up a little later, that I think if was able to enjoy that and understand that while I was watching the episode, I would probably have given this one a higher score too. So I can understand where you're coming from with the higher score. And, like I said, this is still a great episode by my books. Speaking to those out there that aren't super invested into the Star Wars universe, maybe have just seen, episodes 1 through 9 and maybe not anything of the supplemental like myself. But yeah, no, I definitely think this was a great episode. And I don't want my score and people to think out there that I did not like this episode, but that's my justification behind it is, there were some characters in there that I didn't know yet because I'm not done with the Clone Wars, or I haven't watched Rebels, where I'm assuming some of these characters show up that you're excited about.
Exactly, Ryan. I'm glad you said that. And like you said earlier, 8, that's great in our book. That's
Yeah.
still a really high score. And I expect that people that are kind of like more so like, my parents, they really haven't finished the Clone Wars or Rebels either. I feel like they would have given it a similar score as to yourself, but I think let's stop here. So Ryan's score 8, my score a 10 out of 10. Go check out The Mandalorian this season. They're doing a lot of great stuff. So check out this episode. Come back for spoilers. But if you've already seen it, which I'm guessing a lot of you guys have already seen it at this point, we're going to talk spoilers now. So here's your spoiler warning. So I think, can we do this chronologically? Just go, because it is a short episode. Just think back to how this one opened. And this kind of leads me back to our previous review last Friday. And this is why I kind of want to explain. This is another reason why I gave this one a 10 out of 10. After last week's episode, you and I, we both went on record, said we were disappointed. I was very afraid that all the things that I had been predicting were not going to come true, and that it was just going to be a bunch of one-offs. And I think I mentioned it in last week's episode where I said, I was afraid they were going to just show us that little clip of Boba Fett at the end of the first episode this season, and that was all we're going to see. I felt like it was just they're trying to write off these characters. They're just trying to say, okay, we showed it once, now we don't want to show it ever again.
Right.
I was very afraid they're going to do that. After this episode, my hype is restored and everything is back, dude. Like, my gosh, I'd say probably 11 minutes into this episode, maybe not even that, maybe like the first 5 minutes of this, after the first 5 minutes of this episode, I was locked in. I was like, oh my gosh, this is probably the coolest there's ever been a Mandalorian episode.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from there, and I totally agree. I was totally feeling that apprehension that you spoke about last week as well. But definitely you're absolutely right. Things we were talking about as early as the trailer reveal were finally, we got to see in this episode. And I think ourselves and all the you Star Wars fans out there that have already seen this episode are feeling the same way.
Totally. So let's start at the beginning. We left off with Mando. His ship is really beaten up, and he's on the way to this planet where the frog lady will meet up with the frog guy, and they can fertilize the eggs and all of that. You know, a little bit of a controversial episode last week with the Baby Yoda eating the eggs. A lot of people freaking out online over that. I thought it was pretty funny, and it's super Star Wars. Are you kidding me? Like, I thought it fit perfectly in Star Wars. So with that aside, you know, Mando, they don't let you breathe for a second at the beginning of this one. You know, we get that calm opening shot of the ship just slowly trolling, and then he says, well, our landing equipment is shot. We're going to have to land this thing manually. Boom, the ship's on fire, and we're into a crash landing right away at the beginning of this episode. I thought that was brilliant to start us off with a, you know, actual pulse. And the landing sequence is epic. And you think he lands the ship, and then it crashes into the ocean, and that got a big laugh out of me and my dad.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think this episode started off, and that's what I liked about it, very quippy. I mean, even when you're talking about the landing gear, he goes, you know, it's going to be a rough landing. We're going to have to, you know, have just enough fuel to slow us down, you know, if we don't burn to a crisp first, he says. And then as he's falling, you know, he's coming in, you know, you've got the air controller, whoever saying, you got to slow down. I'm working on it. You've got to slow down. I'm working on it. And he goes, finally, I got it. And you see him, like you said, slowly landing in.
And then Admiral Akbar, right? The Mon Calamari, he crashes and the guy's just like that. And I was laughing so hard.
I agree.
Okay,
yeah.
So good.
Yeah, no, great way to start the episode.
You know, so that's kind of our first Easter egg reference, right, Ryan? We get to see some more Mon Calamari. That's the race of the people that are normally, you know, we know as Admiral Akbar's race. A lot of them in this one, and a lot of the squid people, which are called
It's a trap! Sorry, I had to add that in there.
Oh, of course, dude. The famous line.
I was just waiting for a good moment. I thought you were going to pause there, but...
Yeah, it's a trap. I love Admiral Akbar. So we get to see a lot of the race. Oh, yeah. And, you know, we get to see a lot of great stuff with Baby Yoda. I think so. Here's the thing, RB. Let's talk about Baby Yoda. Get it out of the way in this one.
Yeah, I'm so over Baby Yoda at this point.
Episode 1 showed a little bit of Baby Yoda, but you and I were like, he didn't intervene when he could have. Episode 2, way too much Baby Yoda. The whole episode was practically Baby Yoda on screen. This episode, I feel like, had a good balance of a lot of funny Baby Yoda scenes, but then he hands them off to the frog people when it's time for the main mission and time for things to get badass.
Right, but at what point are we going to start seeing Baby Yoda harnessing the Force again? That's what I'm waiting to see.
Episode 4, maybe?
We talked about this in episode 1 and how useless he was. We saw him more powerful than anyone else we've seen in The Mandalorian in season 1 when he handled the horn thing, the hornbill thing.
The Mudhorn, yeah.
The Mudhorn, thank you. When are we going to see that in season 2 and not see him just there for comic relief?
Yeah, I could tell that's totally a big, you know, that could be seen as a negative too. I think this one had a good balance of it, and we're building up to it. You know, I could tell now that they're building up to it with a meeting that has to do with the end of this episode. But let's just continue on in the timeline. Yep. Heads into the bar, right? Says goodbye to the frog people. Heads into the bar, says, "You ever seen anyone like me?" Mon Calamari waiter says, "Yes, people with Beskar have been here before." Gets one of the pirate Quarren guys over and says, "You know, I could take him to you on my ship. It'll take a few hours." And then, boom, we get the awesome Mando theme and that epic wide shot zooming in on him and Baby Yoda on the boat. That was freaking amazing. And I'm like,
great scene. Very out of place for Star Wars. You don't assume to see boats on the water in Star Wars. So very out of character there. But no, I agree. A beautiful, beautiful shot and a beautiful episode altogether, even from that opening shot we were discussing with them just slowly drifting towards this planet.
Yeah, totally. And so we get on this boat and I'm like, okay, this is where the episode could slow down and it's going to be more of a long journey. Mm-hmm. But no, they go the other direction with this one. You know, they're talking about, there's a Mama Core, I think is what it's called. Something like that.
Yeah.
There's a Mama Core. You ever seen a Mama Core eat? And he's like, "Oh, come over here. The kid might be interested in this."
Yeah, the kid will like it.
The kid will like it. And then what does he do?
Whack right in.
Yep, throws Baby Yoda right in, and he gets freaking eaten by this giant sea monster thing.
Yeah.
And then Mando, just like no hesitation, jumps in towards the giant sea monster into the hole. And then they lock him in there, and they're trying to cut Mando out of his armor.
The Beskar is ours. You know, they're just trying to wait for him to die and take the armor.
Crazy, right? I thought that was really exciting. And then, you know, how does the Mando get out of this one, Ryan? I feel like I'm talking too much. Maybe you could pick up from here.
So we have a group of some badass new Mandalorian finally showing up. or at least what we think, and we later find out are Mandalorian, but they come, save the day. They pull them out. They kick the ass of all these. They're not Mon Calamari, whatever the
Quarren.
tentacle face. What are they called?
The Quarren.
The Quarren, kick the asses of them, and then a badass scene going down and grabbing the child, pulling his little floating egg thing all dented out. You just see you don't actually see the battle. You just see the lasers underwater.
That
and
was
she
cool.
comes shooting out with it. Great sequence, and he's all right. And then we think he's met up with his kind, and then they take their masks off. I mean, we're reminded in the recap at the beginning, about how important it is to the Mandalorian to keep their mask on the whole time. And then what does this group do? First thing we see, they take their masks off, and we think they're not Mandalorian anymore. But we learn, they are, and there are other types of Mandalorian.
Yeah, so this is the main reason where I really want to hear from you a lot, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the introduction to Bo-Katan. Big character in Star Wars The Clone Wars and in Rebels. I mean, as soon as I saw the armor, I knew it was her. She's a part of this group of Mandalorians called the Night Owls, and you can maybe tell by the design on her helmet, it looks kind of like an owl a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and they're her two compatriots to make up this trio. They're new characters. They are not from Clone Wars or Rebels, as far as I know, or as far as a lot of people know. I did do a little research, but they are new characters. But Bo-Katan is the former ruler of Mandalore. And, she kind of gives a backstory as to, how long her family has been in the Mandalore, have been Mandalorians. And there's a lot of exposition here and a lot of backstory and a lot of explaining as to the Mandalorian, as, Din Djarin. He is not actually from Mandalore. He's the foundling, and we knew that. But he's part of a cult of, zealots, religious zealots called they say, oh, he's a child of the Watch.
Right.
And so, before I go and explain it to you right here, Ryan, kind of what all this backstory means, or, I kind of want to just gather, this is important for people to know, like, did it do enough for you having not seen the Clone Wars and Rebels? Did this, do enough for you to where you could say, okay, yeah, I could kind of get it without having to, or do you really feel like I got to go and watch this now? I don't understand.
I mean, yes, I think that I could get away with not watching it. I think there was enough explanation that, there are other groups of Mandalorian, not just this group that we were introduced to in season 1. So I'm okay with that. But as a Star Wars fan and as someone who wants to understand a little bit more of this universe, I still would rather go back, which I am currently right now, coinciding with the Mandalorian, and watch all of the Clone Wars and Rebels, so I better understand it. Now, will I, be able to catch up? Probably not. But, I do at some point want to finish all of these and get a big picture seat here. At least maybe, I don't know, who knows, by season 3 of The Mandalorian. So at least I'm ready to go at that point. Because I know I'm playing catch up here, and, I don't mind that. But I think like I said, I would have enjoyed this episode a lot more if I had finished the Clone Wars. But that being said, yes, I think they did a good job. There was good exposition here. What was needed to be said was said, and yet it didn't cut away from the action of this episode.
And it didn't leave you too confused at all? It felt like you had just the right amount of explanation?
Yeah. I think they did a very good job in that sequence explaining, like you said, the Watch, and, that they are not the only Mandalorians. They're, like you said, a cult of religious zealots, and that there are other types of Mandalorian out there, and that she is was the ruler of Mandalore and wants to return to be the ruler of Mandalore.
Right. And I think they did a really great job, explaining that, and, if I do want to kind of give you a little backstory here, RB, because one of the biggest references there is in when they say, oh, you're a child of the Watch, which is a major theory I had back in season 1 when we get the flashback of Din Djarin as a child getting rescued from some super battle droids, right? And the guys wearing the armor are wearing mostly the blue armor. And I, way back when season 1 came out, I froze the frame when they came on screen, and I saw on their shoulder pads, they were wearing the mark of the Death Watch, which is introduced in the Clone Wars as a group of extremists that want to get back to Mandalore's original warrior past, which is exactly how they explain it kind of in this episode, as they're kind of religious extremists. So, I had a feeling he was part of Death Watch. And I think they're just taking out the Death Watch name and just calling it the Watch in the show, The Mandalorian now, which I'm totally cool for as well. But, let's keep going here. So we get a little bit of Bo-Katan, and this is, for me, the biggest character development I've seen for the Mandalorian thus far, when he basically abandons them. He's been spending these first 2 episodes and part of, the last season looking for more Mandalorians. And he finds 3 of them right here, and his first reaction is, "You guys took off your helmets, I'm dipping." So he leaves them on the boat, and then he kind of gets in trouble, and they save him again. They say, "Okay, no, come on, hear us out." And then they kind of twist his arm, and they go back for a drink, and we get a lot more explanation, a little more backstory, as far as, he says, "Do you know anything about the Jedi?" And then she says, "Yes, I can get you in contact with one of the Jedi, but first I need you to help me with this one thing."
Right. Yeah.
Which is where we get our main mission, which is, did you kind of get an understanding of what the main mission was here?
Yeah, I mean, I think at first, they told a half story to the Mandalorian to get him on board, but it was to go get these weapons that are being transported by the Empire or the remnants of the Empire, and essentially, as we find out later on, to recover the Darksaber, which we saw at the end of season 1 with Giancarlo Esposito. I know Grand Moff. I don't remember his exact name.
Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon. That's what it is.
Yeah, dude. And yeah, so a lot happens. They get on, he leaves Baby Yoda with the frog people, which I was worried he was going to eat more of the eggs, but he kind of makes friends with the baby. I was getting a little nervous, yeah. Yeah, that was kind of crazy. And and I kind of forgot one of the funniest little Baby Yoda moments, which is earlier in the episode when he finally gets him a bowl of soup, and a big reference to Alien when the squid gets stuck on his face and tries to suck his face off. I thought that was really funny. And then it kind of goes back in the bowl after Mando stabs it with a knife, and he looks at the bowl, looks at Mando, looks at the bowl.
Don't play with your food.
Don't play with your food. That was a good little lines. But, Baby Yoda's out of the picture at this point, and we get to see what I think is the greatest action sequence on The Mandalorian thus far.
I mean, I will tell you that I really like the action sequences in the season premiere this
Crate
season.
Dragon.
But yes, this was pretty incredible too. Very, very back to the roots of A New Hope, and the opening sequence in A New Hope and the battle on the ship.
Yeah, and the music was so incredible. Just seeing these guys fly in, on their jetpacks, just literally making mincemeat out of these stormtroopers, going straight through them.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite scenes too is where they throw the smoke grenades or whatever, and we get the great camera shot with the thermal cameras. One of my favorite sequences. I loved how that was executed.
That was so epic, and we get to see a lot of characteristics as far as how fierce Bo-Katan is as a warrior. She has that little blade on her wrist, and she's stabbing the freaking stormtroopers in the throat. I was freaking out. I was oh, she is going full badass. That is awesome.
Yep. No, totally an awesome character action-wise,
And, I really want to know, what did you think of this? We just get to see a few Imperial troops on this, but, pretty famous actor at the helm of the Imperial ship. I don't know the guy's name, but his face looked really familiar to me. What'd you think of the Imperials in this one? As far as, I think most of it was played for comedy, and then some of it was kind of, really threatening as well.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I was very much back in, like I said, the original trilogy. Very memorable. Remind us of what was his name? Grand Moff Tarkin, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Same uniform and whatnot, and truly, following orders, sort of what we seem to expect from the, from these Empire. I guess they're the Separatists now, following the fall of the Empire, but that there's that chilling scene where he's on the line with Moff Gideon, and he says, "You know what to do." He pulls out his blaster, he shoots the other two, whatever, the pilot and the co-pilot, and that immediately he's going to start, he's going to take the ship down, and sort of shows once again the lack of morality from the Empire, which is still there residually, even though the Empire has fallen.
Yeah, and, really building on, which I thought that, the sequel trilogy did kind of, but not go all the way with this, but the Empire is essentially Nazis, right? They are really
well, where do you think, that's where the name Stormtrooper comes from.
Exactly, yeah. So I think they're really going full on that, especially with, how the guy bites down and gets electrified, his mind. The whole, suicide thing of it, that was pretty crazy too. But, even before that, Mandalorians push all these stormtroopers back, and there's kind of this one officer. He says, "Don't close the doors." And then they come in and they're starting to wreck everybody, all the Mandalorians, and he says, "Close those doors, close those
all the doors." Yeah.
Yeah.
Which doors? All of them.
All of them. And then they close them, and then they say, "Oh, great, okay, we've sealed them in there." And he says, "Wait, where have you sealed them?" "In the cargo control." And then they blast them out in this freaking atmosphere.
Yes, so awesome. Great scene.
And then we get to see Bo-Katan take off her helmet and get in full contact with the guy that's in the cockpit, the main leader. And
who was played by the way, Titus Welliver is the name of the actor.
Really a good actor, and he did a good job here, I think. And he says, "Oh, it's okay. Even if you were to jettison some of these weapons, you'll never recover them." And she says, "I don't care about the weapons. I want the ship." And then they go for the ship, and she leaves. She hangs up. She says, "Make a pot of tea. We'll be there in a few minutes."
Yeah, we'll be right up. Yeah.
So cool. And then they kind of fight their way up, and like you said, Giancarlo Esposito making a small appearance, but I think an impactful one with
absolutely.
They don't show his face until he says at the very end, "Long live the Empire."
Yep.
Just like that. And that was frightening to me, just because you know what to do. Long live the Empire. And then boom.
Well, Giancarlo Esposito is, I mean, we fell in love with him as Gus Fring in Breaking Bad. And he does that, just calm but so evil villain. We saw him, like I said, as Gus Fring and now as Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
So definitely a powerful sequence, like you said. Not a huge cameo, but excited to see him back early now in season 2. Hopefully we'll get a lot more of him the rest of the season.
Yeah, and Mandalorians take control of the ship, even though it is crashing down towards the ocean, and Din Djarin is trying to pull it back up. And Bo-Katan is interrogating the Imperial officer. "Where is it? Where's the Darksaber?" And I was like, "Oh, she wants the Darksaber? That's freaking crazy." Yep. And then, she's like, hey, what does he say? Something like,
Yeah, if you have to ask, you already know.
Yeah, and then she just knows that Moff Gideon has it. And
and that's when I think he bites down on the electro pill.
Yeah, and where we leave off as far as Rebels, RB, I don't want to spoil it too much for you, but where we leave off in Rebels, the Darksaber is in the hands of Bo-Katan. She has it, and she has just taken back Mandalore, or is on the way of taking back Mandalore from the Empire in Rebels, because Rebels takes place just before A New Hope. So that's kind of the last time we see her, just slightly before A New Hope happens, and she's basically almost back in control of Mandalore. So we don't know how she lost it to Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's something we can figure out. But a really intense sequence. They save the ship, and they're saying, "Okay, they're coming after us. It's time for us to get out of here." And they reassure Mando. They say, "Are you sure you won't come with us? Help us take back Mandalore?" And he says, "Well, I have this to finish first. I have to get the child back to the Jedi." And then we get, I'm not going to lie, I freaked out a little bit.
I got super hyped, yeah.
She takes off her helmet, and she says, "Go to, this one city on this forest moon."
Forest moon, yep.
Yeah, on this forest moon, the city of, I can't remember what the exact city was, but, I'll look back and remember it later. But she says, "Go to the city." She says, "There you will find Ahsoka Tano." And my jaw was on the floor. I was like, "What?" Yes,
and she goes, true. "Tell her Bo-Katan sent you."
Yeah. So what was your reaction, dude? What did you think when she said that?
I got really excited. First of all, the name of the city is Caladan.
Caladan, yeah.
Yep.
Which is a cool name.
I got really, really excited. Just, like I said, I'm watching the Clone Wars right now. Just started season 2. So at least, I know who Ahsoka Tano is. So I got really excited to see what they do with her in a live action role. It's very interesting to see. But, that's something right now that I'm just so wondering, where was Ahsoka Tano during, not just Revenge of the Sith, but also, in 4, 5, 6, the original trilogy. Where was she? So I think we're going to find out a lot of that, why she wasn't involved. I probably will find out more of that too while watching Rebels and the Clone Wars.
A lot of that is explained in those.
So excited because, it means we get to see the Jedi again. And I think that's my one problem with The Mandalorian right now is we fall in love with Star Wars. I'm sorry, it's not for Boba Fett, who I know isn't a Mandalorian, but the closest we had in the original trilogy.
Right.
It's not for the Stormtroopers. It's for the great battles between the Jedi, who are badass, and the Sith, who are badass. And I'm thinking, now that I'm hearing Ahsoka Tano's coming in, we may get some old Sith, faithful as well. Maybe get a little bit of the seeds of the First Order being planted as well. So really excited to see where they go with this, and so hyped that it's going to be Ahsoka Tano as the face of the Jedi, at least to start here.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, as soon as she said Ahsoka Tano, I just went, wow, they just expanded this universe. They made, because The Mandalorian felt very small scale before.
Yes, very much so.
They made it feel massive in just this one 30-minute episode, which is why I think it's a 10 out of 10, honestly. And, from there, he picks up Baby Yoda. He says, I already got one too many pets. Doesn't want to take a little frog baby with him. And they're on the way, and Mando finally says, I finally know where to take you. And he heads off into the stars. But what happens with Baby Yoda there at the end? A little tagline there where he finally gets his food that he's been desiring, right?
Yes. It's you see this squid spider thing with a bunch of eyes, and it's falling on him slowly, descending onto Baby Yoda. And of course, Mandalorian Din Djarin, he just grabs it and hands it to him. We see him slurping up the tentacles.
Yep. And he says, I finally know where we're going.
I'm convinced that Din Djarin has no idea how to raise a child, and he's just not feeding him. And that's why Baby Yoda is always so hungry, and he's resorting to eating babies. That's just – I looked at, the first time I saw it first when he eats – he's starting to eat the eggs. Then he's eating, the spider eggs in episode 2 of season 2. And I'm just thinking, he must not – the Mandalorian must not feed this kid.
He must not.
He's just always hungry, man.
He's just starving, dude. And, I think that maybe we won't see Ahsoka next episode. That's my one fear, that they're not just going to keep going.
Fair. No, I think they're going to pace it out, yeah.
They might let us wait.
Yeah, it'll probably be a side mission while he's – we know his ship is still not in the greatest shape. Probably there's going to be some sort of interference. Maybe we'll get a look again at the Separatists turn, the X-Wings again. Maybe they'll get involved. He'll run into some sort of trouble, trying to get to Ahsoka in the next episode. So I agree with you there. I don't think they're going to get us right into Ahsoka, but maybe right around the episode 5 mark, the halfway point of the season, we'll get to see her.
Totally. And, I'm sure we missed a bunch of references, but I think we picked out some of the main ones, Admiral Akbar, everything with Bo-Katan, the Darksaber. I think that's the one thing they're kind of leaving up a little bit. They I know everything basically about the Darksaber, but I'm pretty sure Ryan, people more on your stance, a little more mysterious as to the past, besides the fact that I told you that it once belonged thousands of years ago to a Mandalorian that was also a member of the Jedi Order. That's kind of the origin of it. Okay. And it is explained in Rebels. They give you the full backstory of how it came into the hands of everybody. But, I'm hoping that in, a few forthcoming episodes, whenever Bo-Katan shows up again, I hope she gives Mando the full explanation. What is the Darksaber and why is it so important? Obviously, it has to do with her becoming ruler of Mandalore. So
yes, I would assume as much.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of past owners of it. One of them may or may not be Darth Maul, RB, maybe to get you a little interested in watching that arc in the Clone Wars. That is pretty awesome.
Darth Maul, one of the most badass villains in one of the worst films of the Star Wars franchise. In fact, probably in 2 of them, because he shows up in Solo too, which I was not a big fan of. But,
Yep. So, any other closing thoughts for this one, RB?
No, none others. Just excited for more episodes. Keep them coming, Jon Favreau. Keep them coming with the awesome direction. Of course, this one, Bryce Dallas Howard doing another magnificent job, just like she did in season 1. And looking forward to keeping these episodes coming and keeping our review episodes coming to you, our fans, on Friday evening, maybe into the wee hours of Saturday morning.
Absolutely. And what is our next episode, RB? Tomorrow, a very special episode releasing.
Yeah. Somebody told me that a very special guy has a birthday coming up tomorrow. That person may have the initials RB, and you may get to hear that person's favorite films in different categories, maybe in a lightning round format. I don't know. Maybe that's what's coming up.
We'll see. So yeah, RB's special birthday episode coming at you guys soon. That'll be top of the list, episode 17, I'm pretty sure, because we don't count these as actual episodes, just as reviews. So yeah, so top of the list, RB's favorite movies, gonna be coming at you guys on the 14th, along with probably this one too. I'll get a little double upload going on this Saturday. So stay tuned for that. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know down below, what did you think of this episode? Were you hyped? Have you seen the Clone Wars? Did you benefit from seeing the Clone Wars? Let us know all your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review, a thumbs up, whatever it is. Give us a positive review over there if you enjoyed the videos or podcasts. And with that said, if you want to give us any personal feedback in a DM of any sort, you can reach me on Instagram and Twitter at DomGonzalez48. And you can reach RB over on Instagram at RB_the_SID. And on Twitter, you can reach him at RB with the call. Those are down in the description below as well if you want to find those. So you can go ahead and look there. With that said, we'll see you guys in the next episode of Top of the List. And after that, we'll catch you in the next episode of The Mandalorian. So we'll see you guys then.
Later.